Welcome to What's Up, Bolts. I'm Fernando Ramirez. He is Dan and Daygo at an undisclosed location. The way
That's right.
Dan, thanks again. Another good week. Browns, Chargers. You know what's funny is before we get into that, we have a special guest today, Uncle Joe Reedy. He jumped on
Let's
and talked a little bit.
freaking go.
I knew you'd get excited about our special guest.
I love
today.
Uncle Joe.
And he really laid it down for us. So I like getting his perspective, and he gives us some good stuff. But Dan, this game, it's an interesting one. I mean, both teams are at 2-2. The Chargers have had their share of moments of disappointment. Cleveland has too. That's what Uncle Joe said. He's like, both teams have had their share of disappointment this year, where they should both be either 4-0 or 3-1. Unfortunately, they're both at 2-2. But I think this is going to be a tougher game than I think most people expect.
100%. The thing that you have to understand, right? Jacoby Brissette does not have to light you up for 404 tuds to lose. Does that make sense? If you literally have Kareem Hunt go for 100 yards on the ground, then you have Nick Chubb go for 100, maybe a tud or two each, that could kill you right there. And maybe Jacoby with like 200 yards passing and 2 tuds, that's ball game right there probably.
And it's funny because we saw this matchup last year. It was a shootout, 47-42. Yep. The Chargers ended up winning on the arm of Justin Herbert, obviously. How many times haven't we said that? That's Chargers bingo right there. Add that one for Chargers bingo. Justin Herbert saves Chargers. Listen to this stat line, Dan. You're going to get excited. Justin Herbert, 26 of 43, 398, 4 touchdowns, a 91.9 QBR. That's what your quarterback did last year. Oh, you know what I'm saying? My bad. And he added four rushes for 29 yards and a touchdown. So he scored 5 touchdowns in the game.
You see what I'm saying? The son of Odin is unstoppable when you get him going, dude. You just gotta make sure you keep him upright. The son of Odin, I'll tell everybody right now, there is not one person in the league I would trade to get someone else, a different quarterback. I think he is it. He is the guy. I am so hyped just to keep watching him play, dude.
Obviously, going back to the Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt thing, like you said, they had 33 carries for 200 and combined for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that was a big day for both of them combined. And then I think Kareem Hunt added 5 catches for 28 yards, and Nick Chubb added 1 catch for 9. But they almost had about 250 yards of total offense by themselves and 3 touchdowns. And then and so that's going to be a dangerous element to the game this weekend.
That's my thing, right? Like personally, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, I'm watching the Jacksonville tape, and that's exactly what I'm going to try and recreate. Control the football, control the time of possession, control the amount of plays you run. If you run 2 times the offensive plays that the Chargers do, you will win the game. Because number 1, that means you're keeping the son of Odin on the sideline cold. Number 2, it's going to make sure the offense doesn't get going for the Chargers. And number 3, you're going to control the clock. The defense is going to be gassed by the time the second half comes around. And, it's just unfortunate. It's one of those things where you just don't have anything left in the tank, and they're still gashing you the whole time.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Obviously, before we get into the whole game, I just wanted to go into some people's favorite segment, which is Dan goes through the tape.
Let's go, dude.
So I thought I'd add Space Jam. Yeah, I thought I'd add that little clip. So, Dan, I know everybody's been wondering, how did Jamaree Salyer do? Obviously, they rated him as a 91.4 PFF did in pass blocking. So I wanted to go through the tape with you and see what you saw. From this young man. I'm gonna give you
Don't
some.
Have my prescriptions tape on.
All right, here goes the first play.
Yeah. Here we go. Look at the patience, dude. You see his body positioning right there? I just don't love that he's leaning. I don't like leaners, and here's why. I'll tell you. When you lean and put your weight forward on a defensive lineman, any defensive lineman worth his salt will feel that weight, and he'll shuck you and throw you forward, and you'll be in the dirt. Does that make sense?
So right there, like a Dwight Freeney would have spun move at it,
Yeah,
like he would
right.
have moved him, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what a lot of times that's how they get him. They're leaning forward, and by the time they're about to punch, he's already spinning, and they miss and whiff. If that makes sense to everybody. Yeah, but I like his footwork. Watch his feet. I look how patient he is. Look how patient he is. And the perfect part is he keeps moving. He keeps moving his feet. Keeps moving his feet. I just wish his punch would be a little bit better. I don't know if he chicken winged right there. See, that looks good. Look at his feet, how he's like very patient, waiting. He's moving his feet through contact. Look at that. You see right there, that tells you everything about that man's grip. The defensive lineman tried to smack his hands off of him, and he couldn't break the grip. This, I mean, I'm not thrilled about, right? Because he gave up the inside, but he was at least physical enough to put him in the dirt. Because rewind that back real quick. This is the reason why I don't like it. Because look at how close he is to Matt Filer's ankle, knee, and everything else when he comes inside, right? That backer bails, Matt Filer goes for a different guy. Boom. That's a nightmare waiting to happen, right? Now you're down not only left tackle, but left guard also. But I mean, I respect the physicality that he got him on the dirt and everything else. He looked solid all game. I think he was our best rated run offensive lineman also, no?
I believe so.
Look at that. Look at that. You got to be physical, dude. Got to be physical. I wish he was a little bit lower, but
that was Trey Pipkins right there.
yeah, right. Oh, here we go on the linebacker. Takes a good angle. He's patient. You see, he brings his feet a little. There you go. He gets big. That's the whole point, right? When you're going to the second level, right? More important than anything, you just have to make yourself big and stun the linebacker. The running back's fast enough to where he's going to read your ass and he's going to make a cut that way, depending on how you see he reaches him, and that's why Eckler goes outside.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
now
love
let's go back
watching
to
offensive line.
so
I
back to
love
Jamaree.
watching offensive line play. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, you see, I just don't like it. I don't like that too much. Oh, well, Filer came out and helped. I guess that worked out, but I just don't like. You see how he has the inside route right there, and if Filer doesn't come back, it might be a different story. I don't like that Filer's hopping out there.
If that's Myles Garrett,
yeah, that's a different story. Because you see what I'm talking about? He overcommitted to the outside shoulder, right? So that's why he has a little inside. He sees it. He's trying to work it. But, I mean, Filer luckily plugs the hole right there. That's the thing you got to be careful for, right? I always tell offensive linemen, especially the tackles, there's nothing wrong with you kicking for depth and not touching him a few seconds. You know what I mean? It's a chess match, all right? You got to let the defender make the first move. Oh, look at that. He got through there. I just wish he was a little more physical when it came to running his feet outside to leverage him out, to push him out, but he did the job. But you know what I mean? In the pass game, like, you have to kick for depth, and there's nothing wrong with you sitting there 2-3 seconds without touching him. Got to let him make his first move, because that's when you really put the ball in his court, and he's going to panic, because the defender's number one job, personally, if I was a defensive lineman, I pray for an offensive lineman to reach out for me. I'd smack his hand so fast, dude. I'd steal his rollie off his wrist.
That's a good one. So obviously that's been another edition of Dan Goes Through the Tape. Now let's go to our special guest, Uncle Joe Reedy, to break down. Again, Dan, thank you so much for going through the tape. We always enjoy you going through it every week. But let's go now with Uncle Joe Reedy and see what he has to tell us about the Cleveland Browns this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, now joining What's Up Bolts. You know him, you love him. It's Joe Reedy from the AP. I call him Uncle Joe. We all call him Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe, thank you so much for joining us and previewing Chargers versus Browns. This wouldn't be a Chargers-Browns preview if Uncle Joe wouldn't be joining the COMPAS. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Fernando?
I'm good. And then I get to see you on Wednesday's practice. I get to see you Thursday's practice. It's just a great week for me every time I get to hang out with good old Uncle Joe. But obviously, Joe, I think this is going to be a much tougher game than I think people expect. I think Cleveland is not on bad. I think Cleveland has a good team. They've built their defense. They've kind of built their offense as well. They traded for Amari Cooper, which was I think a pretty good move for them. But just based off of what you've seen, what are your thoughts on the first 4 games of Cleveland?
Very inconsistent. I think kind of like the Chargers too. They, they should be 3-1 or 4-0, but obviously they collapsed against the Jets and had a few lapses against Atlanta. The 4th down decision on the road, going for it and then not getting anything, instead of kicking the field goal, ended up hurting them. And then Marcus Mariota didn't play great last week, but he made completions when he had to, and that run game, the Atlanta run game played well when it had to also. So, 23, you lose 23-20 without both your defensive linemen and still your backup quarterback. It's to be expected, but I think the Browns are in the same position as the Chargers, that you've got to stack wins when you can at the moment. And this is going to be a toss-up for both of them.
Uncle Joe, do you think that Kevin Stefanski, is this seat getting a little hot in Cleveland?
Hot I think when you've had losing for over 20 years, Fernando, it wears down the soul and the psyche, and it wears down media members too, to where they don't know what hope is like. And when you've had the same group of media members there since, I think, the dawn of time, and since Paul Brown started the football team, it tends to wear on people, and I think that's the case right now, especially with these 2 losses. I think getting to win at Carolina, for the fan base that was split between should they have kept Baker, or did they do the right thing trading Baker? That was a good win to start with, because if they didn't, then I think the city would have been on fire one way or another. The Jets loss didn't help matters, because it's like, okay, same old Browns. You beat Pittsburgh, things are up again, people are happy, and then the loss to Atlanta, it's woe is everyone again. So, as I keep telling you, Fernando, and it's one of my favorite phrases, the NFL is a week-to-week league, and right now, everything's on fire in Cleveland, despite the Guardians qualifying for the playoffs.
That'll be an interesting team to keep an eye on in the playoffs. The run game, I mean, obviously that's going to be a huge focal point. That was a huge focal point on Wednesday when we spoke to Brandon Salyer. I think because you've given up, and I mean we've talked about it. You've given up big chunk plays to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You did it to James Robinson, and you did it to Dameon Pierce, and Brandon Salyer said that takes a life of each of them are their own plays. We understand that. But with these 2 running backs, you're going to have to face, and you faced them last year, and they gashed you. Both of them gashed you. Obviously, they went out. They tried to get, they got Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson, better players who can help. What do you think about this matchup? How tough is it going to be for the Chargers this weekend, having to stop both of those guys?
Well, Nick Chubb excels on runs outside the tackles, and the Chargers have struggled stopping runs outside the tackles. So it's not a great combination for success. I think Chubb and Hunt combined for 221 rushing yards last year, 3 touchdowns, but the Chargers still won. Now, granted, it was a shootout, but they still won. And I think with the offense this year, and how Justin and Mike Williams have done on the road, Austin Eckler, the total yardage wasn't great, but I think they got a couple 10-yard carries, got in the end zone a couple times rushing. At least there's some signs of life and production in the running game. Run defense, there's still the total yardage 11th or 12th against a run. So if you take out that 170, and they've got, I think I looked it up, 21 stops for no gains or negative yards, which at this point last year it was 11. So you're seeing some marks of improvement, even though the 3 runs, especially when they occurred, were not optimal. So getting those stopping on the perimeter is going to be a focus. And I also think too, this isn't only a perimeter team in the run game; it's a perimeter team in the pass game too, because there are a lot of designed rollouts that Jacoby Brissette does, almost like Justin does at times too, with the rolling left and rolling right, and doing the short dump off pass and everything. This was a team that really didn't show a lot of 20-yard passes last week. The Browns did, and that might be the struggle too again in this game.
Let's go now to let's talk about Jacoby Brissette. He's a guy he was a backup. He really shined in New England a couple of years ago. He goes to, I believe, Indy, backs up Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck decides, hey, I'm done. I remember he played against the Chargers. They took it to overtime in that 2019 game, and then obviously Brandon said they saw him that year with the Broncos, and he beat them in at the end of the game with a big 50-yard pass. I think Jacoby, I mean, I'm not gonna say he should be a starter or he shouldn't, but he's been a serviceable backup for each team that he's been on. Just you said the rollouts and the ability to take off running. He's athletic. What do you think about him, and could he give the Chargers trouble this weekend?
I mean, he's a steady quarterback. I think he's thrown for around or at least 200 in every game. Amari Cooper has definitely helped with getting some receptions. The one thing that I've noticed with the passing attack is David Njoku is more involved, where maybe the last year or two it was Austin Hooper. But the fact that they signed David to the giant contract and Hooper is no longer on the team, David is getting a lot more of those opportunities now. And also too, Kareem Hunt can catch the ball out of the backfield too. So can Chubb. But I think when you're looking for that receiver to catch the ball, you look at it more with Hunt and Chubb. I mean, it's not a deep route team that's going to beat you that way. It's going to be, death by a thousand paper cuts. But when you've got that offense like they do, and especially the way they run the ball, you can do ball control and be effective.
When you look at their defense, I mean, you see just names all over the defensive line, linebacker, secondary. Let's start with the defensive line. Myles Garrett, in my opinion, I think he will play this weekend, especially last week after the accident in his Porsche. He missed the game on Sunday. Is it fair to say that you think he's going to play? I mean, not so he's gonna play. I think he'll play. Jadeveon Clowney. That feels like the big question mark, right? And he's been dealing with I think a foot injury for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the ankle the past couple
Ankle.
weeks where he hasn't been at his best. Yeah, I would expect Myles will play. I think they need at least one of them to feel good about things. So probably Myles, and it's kind of miraculous that he survived that crash, and especially seeing the Porsche and also the back roads of Medina County where he was driving the 2-lane in the back roads to survive, kind of like he did. So,
and he's like, the thing is too, he's 6'6". That Porsche just looks tiny, looked even tinier. Like it looked like it did kind of get crushed a little bit even more. And I'm just like, how he was able to, I mean, I'm thankful that he was able to survive and everything, but just sometimes equations don't add up. And you're just like, wow, he's really lucky to have walked away with it and been almost available to play on Sunday, to be completely honest.
Yeah. So I think he'll play against the Chargers, and the fact too that it's a home game for Cleveland. You don't have to travel and everything. You get the extra day of rest and all of that. And, I think he'll be set to go.
Uncle Joe, you're walking in the locker room, and Jamaree Salyer says, Uncle Joe, let me holler at you for a second. You sit down with him. He tells you, Uncle Joe, what should I expect on Sunday when I have to go up against Myles Garrett? What would you tell him?
Pack a lunch and, just get ready. I mean, I mean, it's going to be 60 to 70 snaps of, full Mortal Kombat, and it's not going to ease up. I mean, and Jamaree, to his credit, played a very good game last week. In Houston was a good starting assignment, but now, you get a true AFC North defense that is going to be a little more of a challenge. And I think the one thing too, especially in this town where everybody talks about how many times Matthew Stafford has gone down, and I'm sure that's on your sister podcast, that Justin Herbert's been sacked only 4 times, league low. Which who thought 2 years ago we would be saying something like that? Hell, who thought we'd be saying something about that now with the starting left tackle done for the year, and Corey Linsley not playing one game due to a knee injury. So, big ups to the and another rookie and Zion Johnson starting too. So, big up to this group for playing the way it has, especially when everybody had questions too about Trey Pipkins.
And that's what I was gonna add. I mean, Pipkins looks like a different player. He looks like he's finally starting to come into his own. He's matured. There's a couple of plays that I remember on Sunday. My brother would point out to me and be like, "Did you see that? That's a new Trey Pipkins." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Zion took the first guy, then Pipkins comes up, helps him, knocks him down, and that opened the lane up for Austin Eckler to take off running." He's like, "He wouldn't do that the last couple of years," and I'm like, "Oh wow!" So it's just different things like that you're noticing from Trey Pipkins and the offensive line, but just then you move up a little bit and you see out of Notre Dame Jeremiah Owusu. Did I nail it?
Jeremiah Owusu
Koramora.
Yeah, but otherwise known in Cleveland as Jock.
Jock, okay. So I've heard a lot about him. I mean, I was at Notre Dame and everything. I heard a lot about him. The city, South Bend, was all about him. They say he's a playmaker, he's a baller and everything. Just what have you seen from him in his first? I think he's in his second season. I believe. So what have you seen from him?
Yeah, everybody thought Cleveland was going to draft him in the first round in 2021 until they got Greg Newsome out of the corner out of Northwestern, and then
another playmaker.
Yeah, and then Jock dropped to the second round, and everybody was elated that they were able to get him when he has. He's played well when he's been in there. He's had a little bit of injury stuff here and there, or as Brandon would say, he's had a couple alleys here and there. But he's when he's been in there, he's been productive.
And then you look at their secondary, man, and they got ballers all over. They got Denzel Ward, they got Grant, John Johnson, Greg Newsome. Obviously Greedy Williams, they just barely activated him and his 21-day start. I don't think he'll play this weekend, but who knows? But just when you look at their secondary, Uncle Joe, what have you seen from them, and how do you feel like they've grown these last few years?
Actually, that's been the most disappointing unit with the team this year.
Oh, really?
They had a bit. You look at it. We talk about the run breakdowns that the Chargers have had on defense. The pass breakdowns that the Browns have had in the secondary have been abysmal. Give up a 75-yard touchdown at Carolina that starts a Panthers comeback, and then they've got a rally to win. Pittsburgh gave up a couple decent-sized receptions. I mean, the one guy got one-handed. I mean, the DB was all over him. You gotta give credit to the Pittsburgh receiver. But the Jets game comeback started with a secondary bust last week. Game-winning field goal drive, a massive bust where a receiver was wide open that he could have basically run down to Macon and or down to Tallahassee even and not been touched. That for all the firepower with that unit, that to me has been the most disappointing and the one that's got to get their act together quickly, because you can't put that much money out there and have the breakdowns that they've had.
So you think Mike Williams could give them trouble this weekend, even if Keenan doesn't play?
Mike Williams could give them trouble depending on how the front seven is. Gerald Everett has played well so far. Michael Bandy that all those who only watch preseason football, I'm sure that against Houston was like, see, he should have been up from week one, but maybe.
Sorry, I was supposed to do the wave. Hey, Michael Bandy! Hey, there you go. That's a Chargers bingo. You nailed one. Chargers bingo. Michael Bandy.
So Bandy can be the second coming of Guyton, as weird as it sounds. But to me, the receiver, considering Keenan Allen's only played one half of football, the receivers have exceeded expectations. I mean, Mike has been up and down, and it's a road game, which means Mike will be up again because he's had the streak of 100-yard games and everything. But, you see what DeAndre Carter has done. Gerald Everett, I thought he was going to be a solid catch with the yards after catching the ball out of the backfield. But Josh Palmer's starting to get it more and more now. So really, when the top two haven't been in sync at the same time, they've really come to the forefront. It hasn't been the, count on the top two receivers and Austin Eckler for your receiving yards. It's really been everybody contributing.
And they've had almost everybody. It's been all three tight ends. It's been all the receivers that they bring up and they suit up. It's been all the running backs. So it definitely seems like if they're going to get a victory this weekend, it's going to be a win by committee. So Uncle Joe, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who wins this weekend?
I would think the Chargers. I don't think it's a shootout like last year. Maybe more of a 27-23, 27-24 game. It'll be interesting, special teams wise with Dustin Hopkins and, his quad.
Yeah.
We'll have to make a move on Saturday. October in Cleveland. It's not the optimal place to kick, but it's not the worst compared to November or December. And it wouldn't be like that Christmas Eve game in 2016 with the kick and the wind and the way that happened. There were kicking problems last year in the game. There were the extra points missed by Tristan Vizcaino. Thoughts and prayers wherever he is at the moment.
Exactly. I couldn't even tell you where I think he is, but Uncle Joe, we appreciate you so much for jumping on. Obviously, we'll be together again on Monday Night Football when we see what Russ is cooking. What kind of play do you think Russ is going to be cooking up that Monday night?
Forget what type of plays Russ is going to be cooking up. What's over and under on Melvin Gordon fumbles?
It's funny. Somebody asked me on a show the other day, what do you think Russ has been cooking up? I'm like, I saw a TikTok trend, NyQuil marinated in chicken marinated in NyQuil. I feel like that's what Russ has been cooking up so far. So that was a pretty good one. But Uncle Joe, again, thank you so much for joining the COMPAS. You're an honorary compa, and we always appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fernando.
Dan, good stuff from Uncle Joe Reedy, obviously,
always,
right there.
Always
giving us some good insight on the Cleveland Brownies. I thought it was funny. I asked him, I'm like, hey, so do you think Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat? He's like, oh, Fernando, we have seen the same thing over and over again.
Same song and dance, baby.
Like, so we don't know what's up, what's down. We don't know what's hot, what's not. And I just started laughing. I'm like, God, typical Uncle Joe. That's some good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I mean, obviously, every time that we do the show, I try and have sound bites because I think that's good. We hear what Brandon Staley's saying. Some of the players are saying. Today's more Brandon Staley, but obviously, Uncle Joe's going to be in a lot of these because he has some pretty good questions.
Oh, let's go
today.
Dude.
But Dan, just basically going off of the Chargers offense, what do they need to do against Cleveland on Sunday?
They need to be as effective as they were last Sunday in the run game. You need to do that again, control the clock. The thing I don't want to see, right, and I forgot to mention this on regular COMPAS, I think if a quarterback we saw Josh Allen not too long ago throw 63 times in one game. To me, that is ridiculous. That is just absolutely insane high amount of volume, especially for his right shoulder and right arm and all that stuff. I'd rather see, if I can, Justin Herbert throw 30 times. We run it maybe 20, and then the Chargers run it 20, control the clock, be efficient, be positive on first, second down, set up third and short, and be ready to go, dude.
So obviously this last weekend the Browns faced off against the Falcons. It was 23-20, surprising victory for the Atlanta Falcons. They're now 2-2. Marcus Mariota 7-19, 139, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 sack. It's funny, Dan. I was talking about this today with Haley Elwood, good friend of the show. We had her on during the I was talking to her and I'm like, have you noticed that over the last weekend and even this season, the quarterbacks haven't really thrown for a lot? I mean, if you're not the Justin Herberts and the Patrick Mahomeses and the Josh Allens, a lot of quarterbacks threw for under 250 yards over the weekend, and I thought that was crazy. Derek Carr threw for like 178 or something like that.
Oh, Derek Carr's gonna Derek Carr, dude.
Well, yeah, but like Marcus Mariota 139, like that was just crazy.
Yeah,
and to see
that
him
one we know too.
To see him win was interesting too. But obviously Jacoby well, in this game also there was no Jadeveon Clowney
or Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, obviously, thank God he's all right after that car accident last weekend. So Uncle Joe today asked Brandon Salyer, Brandon, what did you think about what did you think about what they look like on film without what's it called? Without either one of those guys in the lineup, which I mean, obviously everything changes, but here's what Brandon Salyer had to say. Actually, wait. Well, so basically, Brandon, so he was asked what changes when these guys aren't in there, and obviously Brandon, being Brandon, got a good smile on his face, and he said this.
Like any D-line that doesn't have two of the top players in the league, it's tough when you've got two guys that are, number one overall picks that are missing from your team, but they've played good defense without them. They've got good depth on their defense. But Myles and Jadeveon are two of the top edge, one of the top tandems in the league. So, they're both outstanding players, run and pass. They're very disruptive. They're both long, big, fast. So, we're gonna have our work cut out for us.
That's my worry right there, the speed. For whatever reason, I always feel like, I always believe, or at least to my recollection, think Trey Pipkins, obviously Storm, but some of these tackles really struggle with speed. And it's almost like power, because, I mean, they're already naturally so big, they have no problem, right? But speed, there's a lot more of technique that needs to go into it, patience and everything else. So,
and the thing is that everybody was very complimentary of Jamaree, which they should be. He did a really good job last weekend. I think this is going to be his biggest test. 100%. This is different. I mean, going up against Myles Garrett, you're going up against one of the best pass rushers, and it's good that he's kind of going to get this early, because the week after you get Bradley Chubb. It doesn't ease up. You get better and better, and you get better pass rushers coming to you. And you want to be better prepared for that kind of stuff. So obviously, I'm interested to see kind of what is going to happen between that. But I think this is going to be a good test. I remember last year I asked Slater the week after they faced Myles Garrett. I'm like, "What'd you think?" He's like, "Man, that guy he's something else. He put me to work. Like, he made me work every single snap." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I bet." And he's like, I was exhausted when I got home. I was like, yeah, no, I bet. So, Salyer's going to be put to work this weekend.
100%. And you know what's the best part, though? He's got to practice against Khalil Mack anyway. Iron sharpens iron. Competition breeds success. So it's going to be interesting to see how well he does on Sunday. And thank God it's another 10 a.m. game.
No, definitely. And that's the thing, and that's going to be interesting about it too, is the
whole dynamic. Because this is where you're really going to get challenged early, dude. There's no, Houston, I'm sure, is a good ball club and everything else. They have some solid players. But like this front seven this defensive line and everything else, they do have one of the best in the league, hands down, dude.
No, yeah, they really do. And then obviously, I think the Chargers offense is gonna have to lean heavily on Mike Williams this weekend.
Yep. You think Keenan's a no-go again or what?
He sat out Wednesday's practice.
I saw that on the Twitter.
I'd be surprised if he played. But it's funny. Joe Reedy actually said it. He's like, or Joe said that the secondary's kind of been a drop off for the Browns. That he's like, well, all the money back there, you'd think that they'd be one of the better ones, but he's like, they've been giving up big touchdowns.
For real.
They've been giving out a lot of big plays. He's like, so that could work in the Chargers' favor, and especially with Mike Williams, who has posted back, and I think going back, or I can't remember how many in a row. He has a streak. I think he has like 4 or 5 away games in a row where he's put up 100 yards. It's funny today. We're gonna go back to Brandon Salyer right now. Today, another one of your boys, Jeff Miller. He asked.
Shut up! I love Sir Jeffrey.
Jeff Miller asked Brandon today, "What makes Mike Williams so special?" And listen to how long it takes Brandon. He really had to think about this, just not because he doesn't like Mike or anything like that, but it's just such a unique question, and Mike is such a unique player. Look how long it takes him.
Man, one of my favorites for sure. I think Mike has the ability to make really tough plays in many ways. When you may think that he's covered or there's traffic, I think Mike really isn't covered. And I think that's a rare quality in a receiver, is he can give you that friendly target, both deep, intermediate, short, where you feel like you don't have to be perfect with the ball. And as a quarterback, that's a great feeling, knowing that you don't have to be perfect.
Look at that. And it says the former quarterback himself, so he knows, dude.
And it's crazy to see the way Brandon said that. But obviously, and I wanted to share this real quick right now. Then Brandon said something that I don't think the Chargers get enough credit for, and I don't think the receivers get enough credit for. But listen to what Brandon really, and this to me, I've been around both of these guys for years now, and I agree with what Brandon says right now.
We've got the most unselfish superstar wide receiver tandem in the NFL. What he's willing to do for us. And I just love the way that he plays. I love the way he practices. And he's just willing to do all the little things, him and Keenan. And I think that they're a rare tandem that way. I don't know if I've ever been around a tandem or seen a tandem just as unselfish and team-oriented as they are, who are as productive as they are. And I think that what you're seeing from Mike, and I think we said it last year, throughout the year, and then after the season, is that I still feel like he's improving. I feel like he's improving as an NFL player.
I agree. What are you talking about, Frau? He was there with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I thought the Rams were good and better at everything than everybody.
Oh, did you want to jump over to House of Horns?
Psych! Psych! I would just to piss off that stooge, but
no, I know. So obviously, I've been around this team for a number of years. Keenan and I came in at the same time in 2013. And really, I can only remember once, maybe twice, where Keenan was angry that he didn't get the ball in a certain situation.
Oh,
but other than that, yeah, it's the London one.
I think I remember.
Yeah. So other than that, I've never heard Keenan complain about touches. I've never heard him complain about anything like that. And Keenan's been the longest tenured. Keenan's been through the toughs and the ups and the downs, the blown leads, hey, we didn't make the playoffs because of one game stuff. Yep. Keenan's been through it all, and he's stuck through it, and he's been a leader of this team. Mike, the same thing. Those guys, everywhere you see where there's two receivers, one's going to complain about touches. These guys don't. And really, they really do have an unselfish duo in the NFL where neither one of them complains about touches. Both guys are good with what they've got. And the Chargers are honestly really lucky to have both of these guys who they put up the numbers, but at the same time, they're team oriented.
Yep. That's the thing, right? Like, to be a winning program, you have to buy into the program to begin with, if that makes sense. Like, you can't do your own thing, play your own game, because then it's just never going to be put together. Like Coach Pompa says on the coaching staff, do what you're coached to do, and that's it. Don't think about anything else. Focus on your job. Do your job, as Bill Belichick says. Also, shout out. And that's the thing, right? Like, when you have these prima donnas on teams, trying to stir stuff up, like the Stooge in Arizona, deleting all his Arizona Cardinal posts on the Instagrams and doing all this weirdo stuff. That's why, in my mind, they're in shambles right now. And you know what's the funniest part? They're on the Hard Knocks in season. And so you're thinking, oh my God, there has to be a lot of screaming XYZ. Of course it's not going to be. I'm sure it's going to be a whole boring episodes of Kumbaya singing around the campfire.
What's funny is that obviously going into this weekend, like I said, Mike is on the road. He picks it up. He's the one that really picks it up. I think he has a streak going of a couple of games of 100 yards. And Justin Herbert, I think, has a couple 100 yards on the road too. So Brandon Saley was asked about it again by Uncle Joe today. And this
Let's
is
freaking go, dude.
This is what Brandon had to say.
Your best games are the time they excel the most is on the road, because Justin has that streak of 300-yard road games. Mike is on a 100-yard receiving pace on the road too. That no matter the environment,
He's asking him about the streak,
Joe,
right? Oh my bad.
3 players specifically working together, they just have real poise. I think, a lot of times you guys see star receivers get emotional about touches and the plan and how it's going throughout a game, or, you just don't see our guys do that. They trust Justin. They trust Joe. They believe in one another. They're happy for one another. And I think that poise and that calm, I think really gives us an advantage, because we never feel like we have to force it to them. And I think that's a very comforting feeling as a quarterback, as a play caller, as a head coach, is that you don't feel like I got to force this or he's going to be unhappy. And then what that allows us to do is play team offense, which is very important.
That's the thing, right? You gotta always play for the name that's on your chest, not the one that's on your back, or it's never gonna work, dude. Never.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I mean, like you said, and we're getting kind of along with the Chargers offense, but they just have to run the ball well. They have to get their ball to their playmakers. I wonder if we'll see another Michael Bandy this weekend. And
I think you have to.
Uncle Joe touched on this. He thinks Michael Bandy might be able to do some. He thinks Michael Bandy could do some damage against the Browns defense. So it'll be interesting. But now moving on, where I think the Chargers might struggle a little bit is on defense. Obviously, they've given up a 50-plus yard touchdown in each of the last few weekends, each of the last 3 games. And they've done it on the outside. What is it called? The outside, the
tackle box, or what?
The tackle box. Yeah, exactly. My bad. I don't know why I spaced.
Outside zone.
Outside, yeah. So that's how they've gotten it. And you know who they're playing this weekend? Nick Chubb. That's where he gets most of his yards. So today, Brandon was asked about what it's like to go up against Nick Chubb. I was going to say Bradley Chubb. Nick Chubb, and this is what he had to say.
That's next week.
Yeah.
Chubb's such a difficult runner to defend.
Yeah, Bridget, I think he plays with outstanding pace, can really see the game and really pace the blocking scheme. I think he sets up his blocks really well. And then he's just a very tough tackle because of how he's built. He's got really strong lower body. He can shrink his surface where he becomes even thicker and smaller. And then he's got really good speed. I mean, he was a track guy in high school. He's a lot faster back than you think too, because he's such a big back, but he's outstanding, breaking away from people. You see a lot of long runs on the movie. So very, very complete running back.
So they're gonna have to be on the lookout for that, because that offensive line is good. And those running backs are very good.
They're no stooges, dude. They paid high amounts of cash for this offensive line. Like, you have Bittioni and some of these other guys. Like, it's
Jack
Conklin. Exactly. It's not going to be. There's no scrubs.
Jedrick Wilder or
there's
Willis,
no scrubs.
Another interesting thing is, last game, I remember last year, Derwin was on Austin Hooper a lot. and David Njoku went for 145 yards and a touchdown.
Yep.
I think this game, Derwin's going to be more on Njoku. Obviously, Hooper's gone, but I think he's going to be on Njoku a lot, so that'll kind of take away that kind of weapon. And then I wonder if it's going to – I don't think the Chargers will have J.C. Jackson travel. I think it'll be I think Asante and J.C. can both go at I think they can both play well against Amari Cooper. So that'll be an interesting matchup to watch as well. But these guys have playmakers all over, and then it's going to be the thing that I think that might affect the Chargers is the play action, because Cleveland runs the ball so well, and because Jacoby Brissette is such a good rollout quarterback, I think that can make life difficult for the Chargers this weekend.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, Jacoby does not need to dominate to win this game. All they need to do essentially is average 3 yards per carry, be physical downhill running team like we know the Browns are. And all you got to do is move that linebacker. We already know football's a game of inches. Move that linebacker 3 inches to the left or downhill, because they're so worried about the run. He's got a run fit. He's reading run. But then, boom, here goes a tight end on the seam route or whatever you want, getting in behind him, right? The RPOs could be killers too if they want to implement it, if they're that worried about the run and everything else. But, I mean, that's all you need from Jacoby, just to be efficient, protect the football, and, manipulate these linebackers and safeties just a few inches to get out of the way because they're reading run or something else.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. So, Dan, give me a fantasy player to watch this weekend.
Fantasy player to watch? Well, it's going to have to be Nick Chubb, dude. You give up 130 yards to, what's his name, Pierce? Is it Donald? No. Damian Pierce. Yeah, Damian Pierce. Then you give up also, was it Etienne with the Jaguars or?
No, it was James Robinson.
There you go, James Robinson, right? So you've had already a few consistent games of being, not as good as you'd like to be in the run game. So Nick Chubb's going to be the one, because he's licking his chops for this game on Sunday, because he wants to get his money, his bag, and he's going to earn it on Sunday if these guys aren't careful.
I'm going to go Mike Williams. I think Mike Williams is going to have a big game. I think what he does is kind of hard to cover, especially with the kind of corners that they have there in Cleveland. So I'll say Mike Williams has another 100-yard game on Sunday. Dan, your X Factor.
X Factor?
It's going to be the same.
I've been wanting to say the same guy for 4 freaking weeks, dude. It is just insane. It is asinine at this point. But X Factor, let me see. You know who's going to be the X Factor? Seriously, I think it's going to be Chris Rumpf. Let me tell you why. Chris Rumpf's going to be the X Factor, because if I'm, you already said Nick Chubb likes to run outside zone. That's where he gets his money. He likes to go to the edge. I'm looking to where he is lined up on the field, and I am about to run at his ass the whole freaking game, because Khalil Mack, I think, has some juice even in the run game also. He's physical. He's massive. I'm going to take my chances with the second-year player who beefed up a little bit in the offseason.
With my X Factor, I'm going to go J.C. Jackson. I think J.C. Jackson has been getting unfairly criticized on Twitter. People are forgetting he was coming off an ankle. He did well against Kansas City. Everybody's just looking at that one touchdown that he gave up, but they forget there needed to be safety help over the top. He gave up kind of a big play on Sunday as well, but other than that, he's been solid. He faced Travis Kelce a lot of the game against the Chiefs. Nobody talked about that. So I think J.C. Jackson has a big game on Sunday, and I think he comes away with an interception or a fumble recovery. Something like that he'll come away with. So I'm going to go with my X Factor as him. And now, Dan, it is time to come up with your prediction. Now, let me lay it to you like this. You are 2-2. You're 2-2. Our guest is 3-1, and I am 3-1. So
3-1. All right.
So who you got this weekend?
This is gonna hurt me, but just because they've played the past 2 weeks, how like they come out. Oh, actually, no. One of them they get obliterated. The next one they kind of have a fast start, but then they can't put it away. I think the run game might be too much for them this week. I think they're going to try and implement the same thing that Jacksonville did, and I think the Browns have way better running backs than Jacksonville does. I think they have a lot more on offense, especially they have Amari Cooper and and David Njoku, like you said, the 2 backs in the backfield. I think the Browns are going to win this one at home.
Okay. Joe Reedy went with the Chargers. I'm gonna go Chargers as well. I'm gonna surprise you. I'm gonna say Chargers 31. Browns 23. I think the Chargers. I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Chargers will pull away, and Justin Herbert will be the one that decides the game.
They'll do just enough. And mind you, no one would rather, like, I have no problem being wrong. So let's not get it twisted. That's just my best assumption within because of what we've seen the past 2 weeks. I think
you're right.
You can't put a team like Houston away to get backups in. And Houston, I don't think offensively has half the roster's talent that the Browns do. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Physical matchup, and it's definitely going to be a good game.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's been another great episode. Thank you so much, Uncle Joe Reedy, for jumping on with us.
Shout out.
This weekend, it's Rams versus Cowboys. If you want if you want to get all your information, go to House of Horns on YouTube. Check out what Gilbert and Vic, the producer, are doing. Obviously, they're gonna have all your content there. Dan, what do you think who do you think is gonna choose this weekend?
He's going to choose his Cowboys because he would rather be right on his prediction that they were going to win the division than and I think he picked him on COMPAS too, didn't he?
No, we didn't. We didn't choose it.
We didn't go over that game.
But I think he thinks that they're going to win as well. And then obviously check out.
You know what that means, right?
What?
Cowboy season or Cowboy fans, kiss your season goodbye. The Hilberto curse is coming to a town near you.
So thank you guys so much. Don't forget, check out this week's COMPAS on the Beat. We actually talk about that. Gilbert and I go in depth, and we say, is there a quarterback controversy in Dallas?
There is.
We both think that there is. Obviously, because it seems like Dak is trying to rush back. He sees what Cooper's doing, and if Cooper wins this weekend in LA, then there really is a quarterback controversy brewing in Dallas. And then we have some more great stuff on the regular COMPAS, and then obviously on Combat COMPAS this week, we will be doing a preview of Extreme Rules. Some really good matches happening this weekend. There's some good stuff happening there too, so we're excited about that. And don't forget, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you guys like about the show. Let us know what we should add, or if you just have a question, let us know, and we'll answer those questions on the show. But we appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget, after the game on Sunday, Dan and I will be here. We'll either be here to be a shoulder to cry on, or Dan will be here celebrating with you guys. So I know Dan. I know Dan hates Whiskey Sour Wednesday, so I know he'll be hoping it's a good day on Sunday. But we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys again for rocking with us, and for the time being, Dan and Daygo and I are out. Thank you guys, and stay safe.
Be a friend, tell a friend.